Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about mastering resilience, the art of turning shit into gold. So, this is going to be a bit of a fun episode, but also serious in some ways because we're going to get some really good information from our guest today. And our guest is the wonderful Genicca, who is a 5D quantum coach, helping women rapidly transform their lives towards their higher purpose and new levels of prosperity. With her
Yes.
potent 5-step code to quantum leaping, she has helped women around the world manifest their dream lifestyle, purpose-driven businesses, and profitable brands with speed and simplicity. That sounds amazing. So I cannot wait to dive in. Welcome to the podcast, Genicca.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me all the way from Vancouver, Canada. I feel like, this is going to reach the masses, but there's so much of what I have to share that I think we can all relate to, no matter where you're at in the world.
Amazing. Well, to kick off the episode, I always start with our rapid inspiration questions. They're just some fun little questions to help our audience get to know you a little bit better. So, can you
Okay.
share what is the most unconventional thing on your bucket list?
Ooh, unconventional. I would say, I would say, and I'm surprised I actually want to do this, but I actually would absolutely love to fly out of a plane.
Fly, like jump out of a plane?
Jump out of a plane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I do not want to do that, but I was wondering if you're going to say, "You're going, I'm surprised I want to do this." I was like, is she going to jump out of a plane? Because that is definitely not on my bucket list.
Yeah. I think, and I would do it with. I imagine doing it with like my life partner. I feel like if it was with somebody that I absolutely wanted to experience the depths of fear with, it would
Mm,
be not by myself. It would be with my life partner. So,
I feel
yeah, I think I think that would be wild.
yeah, what an experience. And if you
Yeah.
had a theme song for your life, what would it be?
Right now, I am really feeling Bad Bitch Energy by Shannon Blake. It's very much the theme of my life and the energy that I'm stepping into.
Mhm.
And everything about it, the words, the whole vibe, it really just creates like this frequency and this like this portal for my day.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
And last one, what is your favorite food and why?
My favorite food, I guess right now, I am loving Vietnamese food, their lemongrass chicken. Yeah,
Mhm.
love it so much. I love anything that's got like flavor and texture and that's almost like comfort food too because it's got like the noodles.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
So, moving on to our episode on mastering resilience, let's start by explaining what is quantum leaping. Let's start there and also tell us how you
Mhm.
arrived into the world of 5D quantum coaching.
Okay. Yeah, it was an evolution of my, not just my brand, but of my own personal and spiritual growth. I started off in the online space because I had to. And I say that because my values around life shifted when I had my kids back to back. So it was important for me to be able to work from home. And so the first thing that came naturally and that I felt like I could lead people through was through the work of manifestation. And that's really where I started in the online space, was to share the gift of energy through manifestation. And as I evolved and learned different ways to work with energy, and as life happened for me, I came across Joe Dispenza's work, which was really fascinating for me. I started really doing it, like the meditations and learning how to really activate my third eye, which allowed me to create very much in alignment with like what my soul's purpose was wanting at that time. And the more that I tapped into it, the more things felt in flow, the more curious I got about the type of work. And when I was going through the dark shadows of the night and really doing the deep healing, um, I wanted to learn how to shift and how to play with energy even more so that I could not become a victim to what was happening to me and find ways to work with what was happening inside of me and to be able to align with what I wanted, knowing the work that I do. And that is you attract what you become. You attract how you feel. You're a magnet for what you're thinking and feeling. So if I could shift through the shit, then how do I do that with my energy? And that's when the book a year and a half ago, Quantum Warrior, fell on my lap. And it was also at a time last year and a half that I was going through really heavy things. And it's what allowed me to shift my reality and play in a whole new dimension that was not at all the physical world. It was like I was with everything that was happening outside of me, I was able to tap into a reality beyond what was happening in the physical world. And that's when I knew that I was in a whole new dimension beyond the 3D world, because most people would have thought that, you know, you're crazy for still being able to move through what you did. And I think
Mm,
there's something to be said about taking yourself out of what is here in the physical and tapping into a reality that is not physically there, but energetically you can actually get to it if you align with that. And so, as I was practicing it, I saw a lot of big shifts in my world. I started teaching it to my clients, and when they started to experience results, I knew that it was not just something that I could do, but something we all have
mm.
access to.
Yeah, sure. So, um, you've mentioned that you went through a lot of stuff. So, how have you personally mastered the art of navigating challenges in both your personal and professional life? How have you sort of done that? If you want to share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's important to, mention that no matter uh, how badly you want to keep your personal and professional life separate, I truly
Mm.
feel like it is all one,
It's
because what
all
happens in your personal life, yeah, it
yeah.
really does impact your professional life and vice versa. So being able to navigate and hold the energy without letting one impact the other, I think, is an art. And being able to see both roles, in your personal life and professional life from a third perspective really allows you to operate from a place of more emotional intelligence where you're not taking, what's happening in your personal life into your professional life, but more like integrating it and, uh, you know, mastering your energy so that you can shift into the role that needs to, be fulfilled without pretending like that's not happening. You know what I mean? It's like so easy to pretend that this isn't happening in your personal life, but and then you don't realize it, but it's actually impacting your professional life. But so I think it's really just creating the space to address both. Whereas I know there's a lot of people that have a lot of things in their personal life that are happening, but they're not looking at it, and what you ignore, it grows. Right? So
Mm,
by looking at what's happening in your personal life, you can actually, fulfill your purpose a lot more powerfully. And uh, yeah, and navigating that while staying true to my brand and to my audience, I feel like it was a little tricky.
mm,
But it taught me to be vulnerable. It taught me to be more I guess, intentional about how I process the things that are happening in my personal life, because I had this knowing that it was happening for me so that I could teach it and that I could really lead people through it. So
Mhm.
I was no longer like a victim to what was happening in my personal life. And I knew that it was happening because there was a part of me that was really like stepping into my purpose. And I think anyone who's stepping into their purpose and developing themselves professionally, they will experience a shift and some a crumbling in their personal life because yeah. Oh, are you there?
Did I disappear?
Yes. Like you said, like you promised.
Yeah. I don't know what's happening this week.
Okay,
I did want
yeah.
to ask you a few things about the
Yeah.
reality versus the 5D because you mentioned that you were able to move past the reality of, the shit that was going on and move into that sort of 5D world, but at the same time, you don't want to ignore what's going on. So, what's the difference between moving into that 5D and maybe explain a little bit more about the 5D world and moving into that as opposed to just trying to escape how you're feeling by ignoring it?
Hmm. Yeah. So I think just being able to uh because with things that happen in life that are messy, that are ugly, that are dark, it's easy to get lost in it. And I'm saying, to sit there and feel paralyzed or to feel stuck or to feel like there's a lot that you're not, and that like in the perspective of things are happening and things aren't happening the way that you want them to. So a lot of times it's easy to because we are human, to feel the heaviness of whatever is happening in our life.
Mm,
And we get to also recognize that this situation sucks. It is painful. It isn't pretty. It's messy. It's ugly. But also to shift our relationship and our perspective around what is actually happening instead of feeling like woe is me or a victim to what is happening, and allowing that situation to determine our energy, our mind, our thought, and let it overcome us. We can actually tap into a whole new perspective, which I believe is love, right? To tap into the energy of love, which is like the fifth dimension. That's where it's pure love. And so if there's a way to like maybe describe what 5D is like, is really just looking at the shit in the 3D world with love.
okay.
Love for ourselves through it, love for the people that are maybe causing the chaos, love
Mm,
for the the mess. And when you're in that energy of love, that's where you find your power, because
mm,
now you're tapping into compassion, you're tapping into forgiveness, you're tapping into um, surrender, you're tapping into ways that you can handle it that is more uh, it's more productive for your soul instead of counterproductive, right? Like I'd rather feel over here than get lost over here.
mm. I think a lot of people listening to this who are going through a lot of shit at the moment might be like, I would love to do that, but I feel like it is when you're in a funk, it's so hard to shift
Yeah.
your energy, how to get out of there. So, can you share some specific practices or rituals that
Yeah.
you find effective in transmuting pain or problems into solutions and strength? Like, what are some tangible things
Yeah.
you did that maybe our listeners can take on?
Of course. Yeah. I feel like it's even harder when you have kids, so you're not just, navigating your own problems, you're also holding space for little ones. And it's easy to not create that time and that space for you to actually get into a whole new energetic frequency and alignment, because that is the work. When we talk about work, it's really the work you do to get yourself to a more high vibrational space. And so there are things that I've done, and that I continue to do, that I find really empowers me. And I
Mhm.
think the first, when I talk about my 5D, um, uh, code to quantum leaping, it really starts with having like this awareness, right? So step one is like having the awareness that, oh my God, okay, the awareness of the emotion. And before you can shift and do anything to navigate the situation, you have to have an awareness that you're actually not feeling your best, because it's the awareness that actually opens the portal to, okay, you get to now choose, right? You
Mhm.
get to now choose if you want to stay in that energy or to shift it. And so once you're aware that you're not feeling your best and that you've let this situation consume you, the next thing is to actually have a vision. So going back to the vision that you want for yourself, for your family, for your business, for your relationship, whatever vision you have based on whatever is happening in your life, it's really good to bring that back into your center, because it's so easy to get lost in the shit. It's like, oh my God, I'm never going to be successful again. That investment went sideways, or this relationship isn't working out. And what does that mean about me? It's more like, okay, what is the vision that I want for myself in a relationship? What do I actually want for myself in my business? So bringing yourself back to that vision. So that, for me, looks like meditation, revisiting my vision board. I call it a portal board now. So just tapping into like that, that reality. And then after I think about or feel into even the person that I want to become, right? So the vision of the person you want to become, maybe it's not this disempowered person. Maybe you want to be an empowered person. Maybe you do want to speak on stage, even though you've gotten rejected 100 times, you still want to be that person that's speaking on stage. So if you
Mhm.
can see yourself doing that, then that's really like the first step to activate your new heightened frequency. So once you've tapped into the vision of who you want to be, the hero that you are for yourself, the next step is to move your body, to move your body and to move the energy. So that could look like, for me, I love to dance. So it could be putting on some music that uh, makes me feel empowered. And so I have a playlist that I call Main Character Energy. And it really just activates and it brings me back to who I am. It brings me back to the truth of who I am. And who I am is not what is happening. Who I am is A, B, C, D. Somebody who's empowered, who's strong, who's worthy. So it really brings me back to my truth. So having things that allow you to feel good, whether it's breath work, or I work with crystals, and I work with crystals to feel what I need in that moment, whether it's to come back to my heart or to feel empowered in my solar plexus. So it really, there's different tools for different things, but having access to those tools is a very intentional practice. And when you have the awareness, you remember who you are and that you're worthy of more, you then now become the embodiment of what it is that you desire most. And so getting into your body, having those warm baths, and taking a moment to really just find your breath and get your grounding. And then you can, like, in that moment, you can then access more of a clear thought, right? Because you can't access when emotions are high, intelligence is low.
Mm,
And emotions create a frequency. And when you're in a low frequency, you're going to perpetuate the thing you don't want. So having the awareness that you are actually creating what is happening, and then being like, okay, I'm going to take my power back, and then I'm going to drop into my body, and then I think to myself, okay,
mm,
how is this happening for me? What is the lesson and the blessing here? And what I'm sharing with you, you can do this, like this can, like I once you have the awareness, the faster you have the awareness, you can turn shit into gold at quantum
mm,
speed. Because it's like a lot of times people will sit in their shit for longer periods of time than they need to, when you can literally have the awareness that you're feeling mad, fine, and then choosing again who you want to be. Do you want to be a person that is mad for the next 10 days, or do you want to be the person that gets over it? Do you want to be the person that
mm,
do you want to be the bigger person in this situation, or do you want to go back and forth and continue to argue? Do you want to be the kind of person that um, that transforms this situation into into power, right? Okay, so how do you do that? Well, we're going to feel empowered. We're going to get back into our body, feel what it's like to be empowered, and then we're going to ask ourselves, what is the lesson and the blessing? What am I learning here? What is this teaching me? How have I? What part of me attracted this?
mm,
And that's
mm.
when you take radical responsibility. And hello, are we still here?
Uh, so, one thing that I would really like to ask you is, for somebody, say, we a good example is always like relationships or career, right? Like, say you really love this person and you really want it to work and you keep trying, and or a career you really want but you keep being knocked back. Like, how do you deal with the setbacks with
Yeah.
whatever it is that you want, and
Mm,
balance a need for persistence and trying to like
mhm.
jump into this sort of quantum field and work with persistence
Yeah.
with the wisdom to pivot or change direction?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I have had both those experiences, whether it was a whether it was a maybe a course I was running and it wasn't selling as quickly, and launching it again, or it was a friendship that just continued to be toxic, and then it's like, well, we were friends for so long, I want this to work, right? I think at some point, you, I mean, in my mind, what I would do if it isn't working is I would take responsibility and say, okay, is there something that I can do better, right? So there's no hurt in trying again. Do I need to re-edit that resume? Maybe I need to refine my launch strategy and how I launch this course. Maybe I'm the one that is causing the friction in the relationship. And so I think there's something to be said about making those edits, because sometimes it's just a matter of alignment, right? It's not that it's
Mm.
not meant for you, but unless you get into alignment and you feel like you've done everything you could and it's still not working, then
Mm.
that's when you know that it's not it's not meant for you. Now, I'm not saying
Mm.
that if you want to act badly and that if you get rejected many, many times that you should walk away. I think deep down whether or not um, it's this or there's a chance there's something better,
And I think
right?
that that's where it really comes down to that self-awareness piece and really understanding how to activate that intuitive self and trust yourself and listen to yourself. Because I think even those people who, not everyone, but who often get into, bad relationships or a career choice or whatever, they sort of have, even though they want to be persistent and make it work, because sometimes they feel like that could be the easier path, they've got this gut knowing or this gut feeling that it's probably not the right option. So I think, yeah, having
Yeah,
that,
you're right. Yeah, the
yeah.
awareness, and then going back to love and asking yourself when you get into that space. For example, you have the awareness, you have a vision of this perfect marriage, right? You're still like, I still want this perfect marriage. And then you start to feel, love and more compassion. But then you get to a place where you ask yourself the question, like, is this for my highest good? Am
Mm,
I honoring am I honoring myself? Am I being seen? Am am I loving myself through this
mm,
process? Because you can have compassion for the other person, but if you're not being seen and you're not loving yourself, um, that's when you almost, you know, that's when you almost in that moment just recognize, no, you know what, this isn't an alignment for me anymore. Uh, like it's just like staying at a job and you're doing everything you can to get that raise or to get that recognition, and you
mm,
keep making excuses as to why they haven't promoted you yet, but like deep down you're like, no, am I loving myself by sticking around and entertaining situations and realities that don't honor and see me for what I'm worth? Yeah, if the answer is no, then that's when step number 5 is where you get into alignment for what it is that you want. So, step number 5 is actually the stepping in. So, with quantum leaps, it's not just having the vision and feeling love. You actually need to get into alignment. So, what that means and what you want to ask yourself is, what is the version of me being, doing, and embodying? What am I taking action on as that version of myself that wants this ideal loving relationship? What would that version of me do? So the last step is you actually doing and taking the leap into the
mm,
quantum world. Like this is
yeah,
a this is the vision you want. So that you um now that you are aware and you love yourself and you realize this isn't actually good for you, then your job is to get into alignment. Would that version of you who's in a loving relationship be respected? Would they be seen? Would they be valued? Yes. So then what happens in that moment is whatever is not in alignment with that version of you or that version of the relationship, it needs to go. And
mm,
this is the piece that a lot of people get stuck on. This is where they stay. This is where they sit or they stay
yeah,
comfortable, because to quantum leap it is the most uncomfortable thing to do, because you're saying yes to something that you can't see. You're saying
yeah. And
yes
that's
to a yeah.
it's because we're so used to, yeah, having to have it all, like all our ducks in a row, so to speak, before we think we can achieve the thing. But if you already feel that you've achieved the thing, which is hard to do, but basically you're just shifting into that energy of already having. And we attract, we are energy vibration. So we attract, like magnets, the energy that we are, right? That is
Yes.
pretty much what you're saying. So that last step is the hardest. And I guess that's why, I did an episode actually with Melissa Alves. We have a Evolution of Your Higher Self series as well for our
Oh, I
podcast,
love
and we
that.
sort of did one just about manifestation and how you don't just sit there and have wishful thinking. It really takes that energy, like matching that energetic vibration, and as you said, to be able to embody and step into that, because that's where the biggest leap happens. And I think, yeah, you're right. Like that is the part that's the hardest, and why people don't do it.
Yeah, yeah, they don't do it because it's the unknown, and and the hardest part about the unknown is what is required of you to actually step into it, which is letting go. So
Mm,
to quantum leap means to release, because in order to leap and to get into this new reality, then you need to energetically actually release and let go and burn down certain things, certain parts of you, relationships, beliefs, identities. All the cords need to be cut, and that in itself is what could hold people back. But with the
mm,
minute you cut the cord is when you shoot up into the moon, and your life just change, like rapidly transforms. And there is a practice that um, I share. So this is step number 5. So taking the action, which is letting go, right? Taking the action, moving towards the direction, whether it's, for example, letting go of that relationship, and then eventually, going out and dating again. A lot of people want to meet the love of their lives, but they're not on any dating apps. They're not putting themselves in front of people. So how do you quantum leap in your relationships when nobody knows where you are? So it's literally like, okay, well, I'm gonna get on that app, and I'm gonna feel what it's like to be in a relationship and really like start to receive that. Um, and how we do this, how we take the action, is we actually shift our identity. We actually
mm,
need to embody and activate a whole new identity,
yeah,
because in letting go, a lot of people don't know who they are now. It's like, well, who am I without this? Who am I
yeah,
without that belief?
mm,
I I I I I had a story for a long time about how I'm an introvert and how I'm a very private person and I don't like to be on camera. But that belief in itself was the exact thing that was holding me back from starting an online business. It was the exact thing that was going to manifest my worst nightmare, which was to put my kids into, into with a nanny or babysitter. So I had to shift my identity and tell
mm,
myself a new story about who I am. And you don't need to lie to yourself and say, I am not an introvert. I love being on camera and I am very not private. Like that's a lie. Your soul will be like, hey, stop lying.
yeah,
But one thing you can do to start shifting your identity is by um, saying things like, I am becoming the kind of person who, I am becoming the kind of person who no longer deals and puts up with bullshit. I am becoming the kind of person that shares my story. I'm like becoming the kind of person that puts herself out there and starts conversations with men. You know what I mean? So it's like shifting your identity by telling yourself a new story, and it's activating what I call the iconic goddess within, and really
yeah.
just being the hero of your own life um, by stepping into that version of yourself that is iconic, where you're like, wow, I can't even believe I did that. I don't even recognize who I am,
I
and
love
saving
the
yourself.
I love that.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about, putting on playlists to dance to, I have a goddess playlist, and that really gets me pumped in the mood to eat, like when I'm
Right.
teaching and delivering in my Ayurveda Alchemist program, or if I'm going to speak on stage, I put that goddess playlist on, and I'm like
Yeah.
really feeling the vibes of that and letting her come out. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's so powerful, and
Yeah.
I love that iconic goddess. I really like that.
Yes, yes. It's a, when you hear about main character energy, it's the reason why you hear it and why it's so it's a trend. It's because it's how we act as if, it's how we get to manipulate energy. And because no matter what is happening outside of us, when we don't let it, whatever's happening, control us, and we are in control of what is happening, then that's when we change the story. That's when there's more of like a happy ending. This is like the plot twist where most people would sort of fall down. You are the plot twist, and because you've taken your power back, you become the main character. You now um, can attract a whole new reality because energy doesn't know whether or not it's real, right? Energy does not know if I am an icon, if I'm famous or not, but if I can act like it and I can tap into that version of myself that is limitless, that is powerful, that is savage, that is relentless, that is untouchable. If I can tap into that and activate that version of myself and start to play my role in life as if it was like the award-winning movie, then I'm now taking my power back and rewriting the way that this is all going to unfold.
I love that so much, and such a
Mhm.
perfect way to wrap up the episode. You've shared so much wisdom with us and a lot of inspiration. I hope everyone, if they're feeling like they're in a funk, they're in the shit, that they're like, no, I'm
Yeah,
going to rewrite the ending. I am going to turn my shit into
yeah,
gold. I'm going to be that iconic goddess, and I'm going
yeah,
to slay. My kids would kill me for saying that.
yeah.
Oh, Mom, you're so cringe. So
I
funny.
love it. I love it. No, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all happening for you, right? We
Yeah.
can't ask, we can't expect to be strong without being tested in our weakness. We cannot ask to be a leader if our leadership, we can't truly know what it means to be a leader until we lead ourselves. And
Yeah.
and once we can lead ourselves through the shit, then we are in a better place to lead other people. So just know that you are being prepared for what it is that this vision that you have for your life, which is probably why it feels heavier and darker, because you're living life in a pendulum, right? It's like as a pendulum. So the darker it feels, the more opportunity you have to actually sway on the other side and skyrocket into a new reality, which is probably more exciting than thinking that I'm doomed for life. It's actually, no, you are meant for even more greatness. So the more shit you're in, the more greatness you're going to have and experience in life. But it's a choice,
Yeah.
and you get to
Absolutely.
create that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Beautiful. So that's so perfect. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. Where can our listeners find you if they want some help quantum leaping?
Yeah, for sure. So I am on Instagram at the.g.lifestyle because living the iconic goddess is a lifestyle. And I'm on TikTok as well at the.g.lifestyle. And then I'm also at www.genicca.com.
Beautiful. And I'll pop the links in the show notes. Thank you so
Thank
much. And thank you
you.
to all of
Yeah.
our wonderful listeners. I really appreciate everyone being here and tuning in. And if you would love to continue these conversations after the podcast, please join us in the Ayurveda and Women's Health Sisterhood Facebook community, and we can carry the conversations on there.
Yay. Thank you for having me. That was so much fun.
You're so welcome.